Welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swiz, here with my round 10 team discussion, answering your questions. As always, thank you for those people who jump on and watch this show and support this show every week. We can't do it without you, so we're really appreciative of that. As always, check us out. In particular, the YouTube, like, subscribe. I know Chris has been pretty active with his podcast. The guy's flying at the moment, so congratulations to him. And for to get in contact with us, as always, get in contact via Twitter, DMs, or just shout out to us like quite a few people did today. I know at one point I was checking Twitter and I think there was about 30 comments or something. So, it's great to see all those notifications. So, Swiz 26 or Supercoach Insider 100. Just getting my breath back here a little bit because I was chasing my dog out of the room as little Max likes to jump in. And so I thought I better try to get him out just because he will be distracting. All right. So in for me this week, and we'll just quickly talk about that as people start jumping on. So for me, actually, it wasn't half decent week. It was actually not a half bad week. They had 24.70. So probably went up quite a few spots up to 13,000. So I feel like it's about 180 points off the top of my head inside the top 10,000. It's about 500 points to be where I really want to be inside that top 1,000. So a little bit by little bit, there was a couple of things I could have probably done better. The frustrating thing is that Marshall decision, and he's obviously come good. So it would have been nice to have his score out there. But outside of that, things are heading in the right direction. Hopefully that can kind of keep up, and we'll just sort of see what happens. Probably as comes my league wins, did lose a couple of leagues too. Shout out to my good mate Lukey for knocking me off with a huge score in the 2500s. Everything that you did went right this week. Helps having Dawson and Laird in that last game. So probably the big thing for me last week was I actually didn't take Bond score. I went to actually went with Dacos because I needed those extra points. I think I needed 141 to win one or two league games. So that's kind of where I went with there. And it did pay off with Dacos getting that 147. So bit of a risk. A few couple of people shouted that out on Twitter saying, well, that's a massive risk, risking up to 135 points just to get what ended up being an extra 12. But it was sort of a little bit of debate of trying to, get those league wins as well. It's hard for all of us because we do play for overall, but at the same time, when you've got cash leagues going or even leagues with, they have multiple divisions. I know a Richmond league, I'm sure Abs could correct me on this, but I feel like it's like 8 or 9 divisions now. Our cricket club's got at least 4 divisions. So it's, there's a few other leagues and stuff I'm in there where I'm obviously in Premier Division at the moment, and I want to stay up there. A couple of the leagues are going pretty good. I think I'm in the 10th, maybe the 15th and 18th highest leagues. They're flying at the moment. A few of the other experts are doing really well this season as well. So, I want to obviously finish as high up as them, and getting overall rankings helps, but got to get the league wins as well. So there's a little bit of risk both ways. In regards to my team, I don't know if I think I actually did one of the trades already. I was playing around with today, taking out Nat 5. So if I could reverse this and show you what I kind of had. But I was playing around with taking 5 out for Ravel, and I think I've got about 400 and something thousand in the bank at the moment. So just trying to work out, and this will come once we sort of have a better idea of teams through the week. Will Graham, the potential to upgrade him to somebody, or if he was to play, like I could potentially go like a Jordan Clark up. But most of my rookies are doing quite well. It's a couple of those other premium types like your Sheezels, your Powers, if we want to call him a premium. They're the ones struggling. But from a rookie point of view, like Closley 105, Darcy 113, Comben 98, Sharp 98. And even the bench there, the Garcia's 84 and 65. So, I'm pretty happy with all those guys. Darcy Wilson, 90 as well. So no need to trade any of them out if you own any of them at the moment. And we'll continue to ride those guys towards the buy. So, they're kind of playing around today with what that could look like next week and into the buys, and sort of which players may come to their end and which players could potentially just get held longer. So last week, the couple that both trades actually kind of paid off. Luke Ryan, massive last quarter. We can probably argue that in a moment about the whole idea of Supercoach scoring. And happy to open that up to you guys as well, and your thoughts about that. But in the end of the day, he did still score 111, and McKercher came in and scored 91. So the massive increase, and his break even still looking really good. So I was happy with the two trade-ins because I was debating between Clary and Parrish, and both of them did stink it up a bit. Where the two guys I brought in did very well. So. They've got McKercher there with a break even of -10, projected score of 74. So they're saying maybe another 38K. If he does what he did last week, that could be a lot more. So happy with the fact that I got the 69K out of him this week. And it's not even necessarily about the money, but if he scores well, I did talk about last week. There was some plans about he could potentially be that D7, M9 option, depending on sort of how my trades play out. So. Really quite happy with that. So I'll talk about some of the options as we talk, because I know answering your questions, I feel like a lot of your questions tonight will be around what I'm considering for my team. So we'll get into more about that as we go through. So I'll just get straight into your questions, because that's what I like doing. I love jumping on and talking and answering what you guys have got. So just a couple of shout outs before I go in that. I'm starting to slowly get my podcast room going. You can see the Gary Ablett top at the back there. So I'm really happy that I've got that. Shout out to my old man for the beanie and that. Part of my birthday present there from a couple of weeks ago. Talking about birthdays. So I think all the boys have now had theirs. So Benny, Chris, and also my good mate Grimo today. Happy birthday, Grimo. Really excited that, mate. Hope you're having a great day. All right, let's get into some chatting. A lot of people are saying hello first, so thank you guys as always. Fabs, we've got Jono, Kev will be in there for sure. Yes, he is. Kev, Global. So always appreciate. Good one, Global, straight off. This is a good one. Respects go out to the McCarthy family. 100%. Really good. The Suns, would have been nice for them to win. Obviously, Bomber supporters don't shoot that down because, obviously, just because of the significance when anybody passes and that, like, it would be nice for the Giants to win for the respect point of view. That's not taken away from your performance and you guys winning it anymore. Just obviously the bigger picture there. But maybe it probably could have worn down on some of the players. Who knows? You get all that sort of stuff. So, and we might have a guest experience. And he's just added himself straight on here. Can you get? Are we live here, Benny? Can you hear us, mate?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. How are you?
So, special guest to the podcast today, Ben. Welcome to Supercoach Insider,
mate. I had to get on because I saw a comment on your last video saying, "Is Ben dead? Is he not doing it anymore?" And look, I knew you said you're getting on at 8, so I thought, look, I'll throw my mobile kit on and just have a sit down, mate, and say hi. I thought I'll try and sabotage a little bit. I even put my name as guest appearance.
I like that, mate. I like that. I saw it popping up and I was like, hang on. It can only be you or Chris who have access to this unless somebody randomly hacked us here. It's like some Chinese.
It should be better. Yeah, only us have access.
So, no, mate, it's all good. I'll just finish off what I was saying.
Just trying to get the audio going the right way.
So the Global, yes, massive, mate. I was there.
Just wasn't sure if you're getting reverb. Hang on.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You play around with that for a second, mate, while I just talk about Global's thing because, the Cam McCarthy. And you're right, mate. Speaking up is an important part. We've talked about this before about, the different challenges people go through. I'm not going to get too political because it's, we see everything that's been going on from the domestic violence thing, and a lot of guys want to then talk about themselves, about everything that's going on with mental health. It's, they're two separate issues. Just because you can't campaign for one doesn't mean you can't campaign for the other. But mental health for guys, definitely. And, shout out to them and the Giants and their family. So all good there. All right, Benny, yes, we can see, mate, you're a married man now. You've been released off the chain for a little while. So shout out to
I think it was so busy going from, planning it to, well, I say planning, but, my wife planned most of it, nearly all of it. But, going into getting the place ready to the event and then the honeymoon, the family moon, and then straight back into work, dude. I know for 3 weeks, dude, I felt flat as straight back in playing catch up, not watching heaps of footy, just under the pump, and then you kind of, you go from that euphoria of a real high to then playing catch up, and then just had this week gone. Family had gastro, so that's why I was like, I'm not recording tonight. And it's funny because sitting down for 24 hours in bed, you kind of, even though taking care of the family and taking turns, I actually got out of it feeling pretty, a little bit more rested, I think, which is weird. So yeah, keen to get and record some content. I will record some stuff this week. I re-popped my cherry last week with the old, was it Damo and Clarkey, the old Drop Reynolds boys last week. So yeah, sorry, you carry on, mate. I just thought I'd say hey.
No, mate, I appreciate you jumping on and getting through that little bit of illness there, mate. It's good to actually have you. It's funny because we're obviously talking to Chris before about what we're going to do tonight, and we've pretty well shunned him to the side because of his basketball, and here you are, mate. So he's going to get a bit annoyed and jealous, I think, because it's like, we end up doing. We should say that to him, mate. We end up doing a group podcast, and where were you, Chris?
I just need a schedule. Like if we book a time, I'm in. Do you know what I mean? But
it's usually meant to be Monday nights, but
yeah, it is. And so I think if now that Chris has his schedule, I think we just book it up and go through there. So hey to everyone. I won't stick around for long, Swiz. I just thought I'd pop in and say hey, but I'll let you get through the next main topics here, mate, and I'll join you for 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's good, mate. Well, I usually just sort of do a lot of the questions, so I'm just going to go through a couple important ones, and I'll go with Mike. Mike's a huge supporter of the team, always sending me money, which is really appreciated, and that. So thank you so much. He's going. Parish failed to launch this week. Swiz, good runs. Still bringing in Zorko this week. Can't stand him, but gotta have him. I think. Benny, you are the Brisbane expert. Dane Zorko, what are you thinking, mate?
Well, people keep saying his body is going to break at some point, but man, he had a break even of 102, I think it was. So he's gone up a little bit, but he's still priced good enough. And when you look at, he's top 4 forwards at the moment, so I can understand why people want him. He's got the first bye, which is the only bad part, but they're about to come up against, I think, Richmond and Hawthorn or something like that. So I think he's definitely got a lot of room to keep carrying out. So I think the role's there. And I kept telling everyone back when they played Collingwood to see him run full strap, trying to chase down Bobby Hill a couple of times. And Bobby goes absolutely quick and then pulls up on a dime. And to see Zorko do that a couple of times, I was like, in my head, I instantly clicked away and wow, like his body's good, because you can't do that unless at his age, unless you're actually in good nick. So, and he's just carried on ever since then. So yes, he's a risk, but who doesn't have a risk in the forward line? If it's not body, it's performance. Like, I mean, I'd rather take a high ceiling player with possible body issues than a scoring fluctuation for a guy you think is safe. And, so I think, what is safe in the forward line, Swiz? So for me, I think, Zorko ticks all the boxes. Even, was it McKenna coming back in hasn't changed anything. It's still Zorko's world out of that defensive line.
Exactly. And probably the positive there, because the thought is he could potentially get rested against Richmond, and that's a little bit.
I hope he is, because I want him, but
it would solve my problems as well. I really would like that. But do they rest him even with a bye coming up in 2 weeks? I'm thinking probably not. But if they were going to, I think it's more likely this week than the following week, because why would you rest him 2 weeks in a row when they're playing, Richmond, Hawthorn bye for them? So it just would be weird unless they wanted to give him a 2 week holiday and just go away and refresh completely. But
how many boosts do you have left, Swizzy?
Boost? What's a boost, mate?
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, wait, I've been burning my trades like Skittles. I've been such a casual player. Hey, I'm just like, I haven't watched this much. I was like, I'm just going this person. Like, why not? And getting mixed results.
It's amazing. When I take other people's advice, not my own, and shout out to my birthday mate, Gummo again, especially him, a couple other people, and that I've been my trade's been shocking. When I just take my own advice, I'm like, hey, actually, that's worked out pretty good. So, I probably need to listen to myself a little bit more. I feel like sometimes I like listening to other people because then I can blame them instead of blaming myself and going, you muppet. I agree.
I feel like
Zorko's the
I'm kind of playing catch up from previous years.
yeah.
Like every year, there's someone who's cheap that I don't get on, right? And then he just fires it off. So it's the Himmelberg or your Aaron Hall, like these ones that are just like priced at a cheap point that just keep on banging on and become a top echelons player, like Marshall years ago, Ridley years ago. So I've just been like, well, everyone that's at that price point, I'm like, oh, Powell, I'll go Powell. Oh, no, Powell's no good, And then I'm like, oh, like started Fisher. And I'm actually probably going to bring back in Fisher just because, if he's got the role, I'm like, someone's going to fire off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm ranked out enough that I can just take those risks, I think, and just check out my team pod this week. It's a little self disclaimer because I'm going to go through the world of a month, and it's going to be hilarious.
And that's fine, mate, because we were all in different positions. Like, not everybody can win it. Not everybody's top 1,000. So, some people out there who are down in your doldrums, mate. There's stuff to play for. You can. I was saying that to people last week, though. You might be wanting to focus on leagues still. Just because we obviously talk more overall. This week, I made a decision in regards to my leagues. I know a couple of people sort of set their teams up maybe to try to snag a weekly as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you end up taking cash, like, that's the thing. Like, the NBL season? There was 20 weeks, and I'm one of those weekly winners now. So, I was more money than those people who missed out, unfortunately. Because there can only be 20 weekly winners and then an overall winner, and whatever amount of prizes they go back to this year. With obviously the new sponsorship. But yeah, so if you there's different ways of playing it, and I know majority of us want to go overall, but. Especially if you're falling behind now, it's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I'm not doing great, but I'm around like 15,000 and hovering around that. So
you're only behind me, not that far, mate.
Yeah, but like they're the times that you actually kind of like, okay, well, I'll take some risks now and then see where you sit after the buys. And then if you're sitting pretty far out after the buys with a full team, well, then you're kind of just trying to run your horse down the straight against other people's and hope to slightly overtake people. So now's the time if you want to get a little bit aggressive, to kind of try and be aggressive and then see where you end up after the buy. And then you can go, well, am I playing for league or am I not? And I'm just going to keep risking it, see where I land, I think.
Well, I've got you the two other Brisbane questions. Bruce Reville, the 102K mid forward. Would you get him if you had the decision between, and I don't know, I haven't scrolled down for all the questions yet, but if you had the decision between him and Sutherland from the Pies, which way would you be going there?
The Rev. Big Bruce. Yeah. And it's funny though, because, well, I'll tell you why. So number one, just for the nickname. So years gone by, I think it was it Josh Bruce, and I used to, like, when I first started watching footy, I was like, why is everyone booing this guy? Like, and then they're like, no, they're brewing him. I was like, oh, right. So everyone at the game is brewing, and all the comments on social media, why are they booing this guy? Haven't you learnt from Adam Goods? And I was like, no, like, they're brewing him. He, like, literally. Anyway, so even people behind me are like, why are they booing him?
Watching footy, mate, it's weird. But
right, like, but booing him, but also cheering him at the same time, and that doesn't make sense. So he looks exceptional. He was on like near 50 early in the third quarter, I think it was. But I think he's someone that's going to get better over time, because in the first game, he was picking out a few targets with his elite kick that are exceptional, like Dane Zorko-esque, as far as one of the best kicks in the team. But importantly, his work rate was really high as well. So he was on the wing, pushing extremely hard into defense. He actually outworked Closey in pushing into defense on that wing sort of role. So as we know, with wings, they can be a little bit up and down, yes. But I've also felt like he cramped up a little bit in that first game. He copped a couple of knocks, so he was sort of off getting rubs a little bit more, so his time on ground was a bit lower. This one, he actually showed promise and had a higher score in the first sort of 2.5 quarters. But then as the game tapered off, he didn't really, convert and finish the game. But for 102K, I think his role's there. And the best thing as well, because they can easily push more people onto the wing. Do you know what I mean? They could easily push some other people there, or they could easily go and like put a McCluggage from a midfield into a wing and then bring Jared Lyons in. But they're not playing Jared Lyons. Like, at some point, once you go like, hey, like, they're using this as a free swing to blood some youth, get some development in and test their depth and actually work with their system, because their VFL side was killing it. The last couple of years, the VFL side was very, very good, and they're not even playing Jared Lyons. Like, yeah, so that's for me. He's an easy in, and I was going to bring him in last week if I had to go an early option. He's just the easiest pick you'll make this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it comes down a little bit, as you said, like job security. And I think Sutherland's like killing it, but there's a lot of pies that are out at the moment. Where the opposite, as you said, the Lions, there's actually guys who are struggling to break into that side, and the guys that are out aren't coming back anytime soon because they've all got ACLs, which is really unfortunate. But so there is opportunities there. The other two Lions players are Dunkley and Neil, that just because of their fixture coming up, do need to be considered. Maybe not the strongest game this week from both of them, which was, it is what it is. But they've obviously been, top players for a long time. And, with their fixture coming up, you'd have to definitely still consider them, right?
I think so. Yeah, like consistency, and yeah, they're still a little bit of an awkward price. So, like, I mean, Neil had that big round and then kind of came down. I'm probably favouring Neil, but Dunkley just gets it done as well. So I mean, they've got a lot of hurt factor. Their back half of the year is, from now anyway. Their draw's much easier, and so, but when you put it again, Adelaide beat them up in the midfield though. So you kind of, it's kind of hard to tell. And as a Brisbane person, I don't even really own any. Like Rev will be the only guy I'm actually owning at the moment. So it's kind of hard to tell. So I think, are they going to keep winning games? You would think so. I think they're going to come top 8. I think they're going to win the next few, and they'll beat up on a few teams around them. But look, I don't mind them. But there's enough there that you kind of like and risk on, and you could take the upside. But then there's also, you go, well, Petrarca's got a lot of upside, but then are they going to play him forward? So you kind of go, well, there's a bit either way. And I'm probably leaning more towards Petrarca than those other two guys based on price, possible DPP, upside. I don't know. Tit for tat, really. I can't help you on that one. Go with your gut. I could easily pick either of them. I really like Dunkley going into the year, but he hasn't really banged off some like real big scores outside of the one just gone. So consistent though.
Yeah, well, that's it. Both of them. And Neil, outside a couple of 70s recently, has been pretty consistent to start the year. The hard thing is they got Richmond Hawthorn, which they should score well, but they're projected to score decent and still drop money leading into their buy. So if there were a couple of players you might be looking at, you could always pick them up after their buy, and they're not going to be any real difference in price, maybe even slightly cheaper. So it's, a little bit of point of difference. And we'll be looking at a couple of players coming off that round 12 buy anyway, especially because they were able to carry us through the buy section. So the Lions have the Doggies, Saints, Port, and Melbourne. So it's a bit of a mixture draw during that buy period. So, but then after that, it kind of opens up a little bit again. The Crows and Crows at home, West Coast away. So you could do worse owning them. They're in the mix of that top sort of 8-10. But as you said, it's just there are other options that you can consider too, mate.
Well, that's the thing. There's 15 players in the midfield you could pick for your 8 spots, and I don't think you're going to lose many points on either of them. It's going to be just more week-to-week matchups. I'd actually be more inclined to have a look at who else in your league, or if has those players, who else in the top 1%, 2%, whatever you're sitting in, who else owns those players, and then just hope for a good run. Hope that one of their players gets injured, you overtake. Like even like Jack Steele, he's gone up to the moon and back, and now he's at a good price again. But then I reckon all the other people around me or ahead of me probably have him. So I'm like, well, I don't really want to go that route, because what am I going to do? Just match up one person? Like, I'd be kind of looking at where your friends and stuff haven't been, and then hope for good matchups each week. Hope for a bit of good run for scoring. Hope for some injury luck, on your side compared to theirs, and then make up a difference that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I put it in our group chat today, like the top 10, removing the dual position players, because obviously if you've got a dual position player, you want them in their other line. But so you got Sarong at number 1 with 131.6, and then Neil's down at 10 at 112.8, but Neil is still in that 10 mix. So the others is Butters, Walsh, Merritt, Bont, Rowell, Tukey, Miller, Steele, Treloar, and Dunkley. So you got 2 of the Lions in there in that top 10.
Yeah.
And Treloar, who's flying without Libba. We do know he's had injury concerns over the past and that, but while he's up and about, mate, good on him. Well done. But there's always that back of my mind, can Treloar keep it up for a full season and finish top 10? Like if he does, that's a fantastic effort, but I think he might slip just back. He's usually that sort of more top 15, top 20 guy. They're like Dunkley and Neil have been there before. You think Tom Green will continue to come good. Laird and Dawson aren't even in that mix. Where do they kind of fit in? So there's a few players that we can definitely look at, but of the main ones, like you kind of want Sarong, Butters, Merritt, Bont, probably Walsh as well. It's probably the one I don't own, and then you start getting into, as you said, Steele, Tuke, Growell, and the rest.
I think Neil did have that ankle tweak that hurt him for about 3 weeks as well, so he's probably the most value out of that, like the Lions sort of mix anyway. Have you touched on Petrarca yet? Because I haven't
even spoken, and that's the problem. Like depending on how much he does play forward going forward, I don't.
He won't get TPP this split though. No, it's too far off. But as they know, like and against weaker opponents, they might just. We've thought he was going to get it before, but he's a shake, I guess. I don't even know what the last change is. Round 16 DPP or whatever the last change is.
The players after Neil, so just outside the top 10, you've got Petrarca. So he's the only other one who's averaging 110. And then you get into the guys who are in that sort of 105, 110 mix. So you've got Paddy Cripps, who just keeps doing his thing. Leedy, Matt Crouch is still up there, and Tom Green. And then you go back to, say, your Ollie Wines. So well done to those who have kind of got Horn Francis actually having a ripping year. He's in that mix in that top 20. So Dawson. Goulden's kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit this year, but doesn't mean he can't come good. So maybe he's a second half specialist. So there are options, and you might be able to pick up one up cheaper, and they get on a run. Yes, Joy. Hey, newlywed Ben, great to see you back on the screen. It is, mate.
There's a few people talking about Ryan. Hey, how much is too much? Because Ryan and
like I'll go through a couple of these questions and stuff while you're here, mate. Just sticking around for a little bit longer here. So we got Maddie. Is Luke Ryan a must-have this week if you don't have him? So he's gone to 666, which is probably a scary number. His break even is 71. He is playing St Kilda, who give up more points to the defenders than anybody else in the competition. You only have to go through the weeks of St Kilda, and I did this last week. I was just like, could not believe. Actually, the Swans is another team that does give up points, and that's why I was kind of end up going with Ryan, because I was like, well, I think he can get at least 2 games where he's going to go nuts. In the end, he got saved by the fact that he had 13 possessions and 400 meters gained, even if the game wasn't on, and his bench completely disappeared there. But we've got the who am I talking about? The Saints. So in game number 1, are you back there, Benny?
Yeah, no, so I was just checking that there was like the echo cancellation on, like, so you weren't getting reverb ruining your stream with me.
Yeah, mate, no, I don't see anything.
Okay, no, all good. So yeah. How much was his price again? 666, was it?
666, which is extremely expensive, which is
I don't like it. You know why? It's because Freo colours, mate. I mean, what is there? What are the colours of Fremantle?
What, green, purple, white?
Yeah, and I heard in his wardrobe, mate, he only has white. So 666, I would not be picking him at that price.
Well, I was going to go in and say, so what was the game against Nick Martin? So Nick Martin scored about 130 against the Saints. There was another game which was just a player just took the absolute mickey against them. Like even Ash and Whitfield, they had a field day. We know what Bailey D did against them, 175. So the Saints just give up some big numbers back, down back. Probably not as much as actually when I went through like the Swans. Like Sydney, a real surprising team for the amount of points they've given up for defenders. Like Maynard got 130 against them. I think Floston, that was the week he got 150. There was another massive week, might have been Duggan. Or there was definitely a defender for West Coast. I think they did really well against them. So yeah, that's another one that when you're looking at matchups for defenders, the Swans give up, but we know the Saints do give up a lot of points. So that's why I think a lot of people are looking at Ryan this week. If they didn't already have him, but it is a lot to pay. Like think about who else you can get for 666 or less. Like is that, I think he's the 4th or 5th highest player in Supercoach at the moment.
It's a lot.
Actually, the 3rd. So it's Gawn, Sarong, and then Ryan. So can you? I'm trying to think. Is there another defender that you can potentially jump on? We know he's like the number 1, but it's just so much to pay when you kind of consider like who on the three round averages. You've got like Bailey L still there at 554. He's averaged 117 and 107 over 5. Jack Sinclair's at 548. Even Nick Martin's still at 589. Like McGrath's been flying this year as well. Ed Richards, if you think with that Liberal role. Max Holmes has been as consistent as anyone. He's 518. And Maxi Holmes' scores this year, so his lowest score is 84. And he's put up, like, his tons aren't huge, but 112, 109, 113, and then he's got 98, 95, 94. So, yeah, just such a consistent guy. 97 as well in that too.
Well, they normally say safe as houses, but we call him safe as homes. Safe as homes.
So would you be better off saving 150K for a guy who's, he's averaging 105, where Ryan's 30 points better, but that 150K could be crucial to finishing off your team elsewhere. So they're the decisions people have got to kind of make.
Where are people getting the money, though, to spend upgrade on 660? But people might sideways from Sheasel to him and lose
that's
money.
The one I was going to actually. It wasn't. I'll get back to your question, Kev. I did. Oh, it's Julie. Sorry. I did see that here. Hey, Swiz,
then if
there's also heaps of money. So and I think that's why some people are considering that now. Would you potentially go?
And if you have the trades and you have a boost, then yes. Otherwise, if you down your boosts, I think you're losing your upgraded cadence by using a boost in that way. Considering if you've nailed all your rookies, then yes, you might have enough cash to still have a fully primo side with maybe a loophole player. But when you look at, say, Stewart's under 500,000 and you're going to spend 166,000 more to get someone, and I understand that one's got runs on the board and one hasn't, and Luke Ryan does look like a must-have, but I'd be kind of, it's hard because it might hurt you in the meantime, but he's still not that highly owned. I think he did pick up a lot last week. I think last week was probably the week to go there with people having an Elliot Yeo. Everyone that had Elliot Yeo, I think, went Ryan.
25% still, mate.
But he went up 12% or something. So he went up huge last week. So 12%. So I think if you want him, I think it's just a lot to pay. So I'd have a look at how much money you have in your rookies on your bench and how much upgrading you have to do. And then otherwise, I'm going I'll go Stewart, I'll go some value, I'll finish my side, keep my upgrade cadence going, and then when I get to the buys, if someone has a buy and Luke Ryan's at a good price, because they have the best buy anyway, then I'll upgrade to him then. And I'll go, okay, well, like Whitfield, you're not really doing it. You've fallen off a cliff. You've had your buy or, whatever, or you're going up to your buy. And then kind of look to maybe get him in then as a luxury. But
it's 69% of the top 1%. So top 1%, you've got nearly everybody owns Dacos. The 1% that don't won't be in the top 1% for too much longer. Sheasel's at 90%. So you could potentially get a big win over the top 1% if you kind of did Sheasel to Ryan. If Ryan continues to go well, obviously if Sheasel hits back form, you're going to find yourself in a bit of trouble, but he will obviously have dropped cash that you can pick him up cheap enough. So it depends if you've got a boost and you want to spend that 90K, you could potentially do that. And then the numbers drop back.
Oh, it doesn't work. I was going to try and go landscape for you.
So we'll go through a few more of these ones. So Kev, should I double upgrade this week and lose the cash cows, or do I go one up and one down? Like as much as like both Sutherland and Brucey reveals there, I feel like there's enough still rookies coming through each week. And the hard thing is if you do go the double down, unless you've banked so much cash that you can go double up next week, you will find that you're going to lose points to the rest of the competition. And that was
he's saying double upgrade.
Oh, you say double upgrade?
Yeah.
So that's the complete opposite. Well, I'll cover that question anyway because I'm sure I had it with the double downgrade. But the double upgrade, like I feel like I do like the one up, one down each week, just because then, like there is, as I said, there is enough rookies, but I feel like that's the best way to play one each week. Because you can call it out. But at the same time, if you've got a shitload of cash there, mind the language, you can probably get a leap on the competition there.
I still like the Rev though this week. Mm-hmm. If you could, just because the price he is, and I think the security that he has, I would like the one up, one down this week, and then double up next week. and that way, because there's going to be a week where there's no real rookies happening anyway, so you might as well, you're not going to get a 102k rookie with forward mid swing with decent security. I think you just bite the bullet on this one and then double up next week.
Yep. No, I like that, mate. We've got Fabs, everybody saying hello, Benny boy. Appreciate it,
Corey's
guys.
in.
Mate, yeah, loving love. Okay, we'll get down to Michael. Yeah, mate, I'm good. Benny's good as well. Thoughts on Reed and Fife outs? I'm guessing Harley Reed and Fife, which was my cover photo today.
Oh, sorry, Swiz.
As you're taking away from my stuff, mate. Yeah,
sorry, I was trying to comment on him.
So thoughts on Reed and Fife out for Zorko and Rev or Sutherland? Yep. Then hopefully allows me to trade, a House to a Butters in one trade next week. But that sounds fine. Those sort of moves is great because not only are you getting the premium, even though Reed and Fife are kind of those mid premiums, you're getting the premium in Zorko, you're getting the rookie, and then you're getting the extra premium next week in Butters. So I don't think you can go wrong. I don't know what you're
Sorry, I just gave the finger to Fab Spark.
Oh, yep. So, yeah, I like that one there. Joy, we've talked. Thank you about that. Congratulating Benny there. Trav, love the work. Thanks, mate. Thinking of going Reed to Zorko, and this is going to be a common theme this week. And Biggie to Rev. Yep, and we just said that. Just can't decide between the two. Yeah, job security, I think's the bigger thing there. Like, you look at that Pies injury list, they've got so many key players out who are short-term injuries. And that's why, as much as the story is great, like, well done Sutherland, he's worked his butt off at the local level, got his opportunity, he's making the most of it. And who doesn't like a feel-good footy story? But then you just go through this Collingwood injury list, and how many of these guys are coming back? Like, DeGoey's probably this week or next week. You've got Tommy Mitchell probably this week or next week with that appendix. Myercheck's 2 to 3, so could Myercheck come back after the buys? Obviously a different position, but then it just means somebody else gets pushed around. Does Bo McCreary, get straight back in after those concussion protocols? You would expect so. So there's 4 guys who you would expect to be back in their main lineup within. Now, obviously, injuries can happen on any given week, and more players might go down. But the Pies buy isn't until round 15. We're round 10 now. So these guys could come back either this week or next week. Does Sutherland get dropped out at the worst possible time? Because we want as many players playing during the buys as possible. I think a few people forget how bad the buy rounds can be when you're trying to get your best 8 in, because we're kind of blessed early in the year when you only got 2 teams missing compared to this time of the year. And you compare that to Brisbane, and Brisbane do have some serious injuries, but Starcer Fitch isn't coming back for 5 weeks. We know Gardner's done for the season, Doday's done, Coleman's done, Will Ashcroft probably still quite a while away. So you're only really looking at Zach Bailey.
Zach Bailey's close. He's the only one,
probably
really.
2 or 3 weeks, I think. So that's the only one that sort of comes to mind that goes, yep, this guy will be back because they're just all long-term injuries. So the fact that, he's playing well, he's doing everything right. And the other part to it is the Lions. Like, if you compare the 2 teams, the Lions still had, was it Brain? And you had Pryor, Morris, even Sharp. So there's 4 guys.
Sharp was the sub too, remember, before that late call-up from Morris as well. So, Sharp was already kind of sub-candidate with Rebel in the side. So I think there's a lot to go before him as well.
That's it. Even like Lohman, who's playing well, and I think they'll keep with him. But there's sort of 6 guys there in the mix and I think he's ahead of at least 4 of them. So and we said there's not more than 4 Brisbane players. As you said, there could be some.
And I think Robertson. I think
maybe Dev.
Robertson's coming back soon too, I think so.
Where if you compare it to the Pies, like Howe was subbed off, but he's not. He's I think it's more a situation coming back from injury. You're probably going to have You've got Harrison by Tell there, and then I think it's Sutherland, and that's we already talked about 3 or 4 Pies definitely coming back in that side. So the worst case scenario would be Sutherland gets dropped, but the more likely, does he go back to being a sub? And then that's just as bad because you've got a guy who might be coming on and scoring 10 or 20, depending how quickly of a game he could get on. Because I think maybe Richards might be slightly ahead of him, depending on which way they go. But even though there's been some poor performances by Hoskin Elliott, we know Cox, they like that because he obviously covers the Rock. IQ didn't have a great game, but they're not going to get rid of these premiership players who are so important to them. So I just think Reveal's probably got the better job security, and if you're going Sutherland, you'd be hoping for a big thing out of him over the next couple of weeks. All right, and Ben's got nothing else to add to there. All right, centre bounce. Hey, what's up?
I'm going
to say that's probably Jez, Big J. So, hey, mate, thanks for jumping on as always. What else have we got here? 2 answers I'm going through. I'll get back to these ones in a minute. Who we got here? Now we'll come back to Bryce's question. Julie, thanks. I'll keep clicking on that one. Hey, Jono, thanks for that. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. McKercher a keeper. What are your thoughts about McKercher, Benny boy?
He's good every other week, like the Lions. I think he's got a lot of potential, but young players have that consistency? So we've already seen a couple of games he has the odd downer, but it's really role dependent. And for him, I think it also depends on who plays around him. So, when you see, so was it like last week? So not the round just gone, the one before, you have like Sheasel play midfield more and up the ground, and McKercher just towels up against Saints and like 130 odd. Fisher 95 that week. This week Fisher goes 140 or something or other. So pretty much, and then McKercher went 90. So they pretty much did a full reversal. And lo and behold, Sheasel still has a crap round. So I think it just depends on who plays around him. I don't mind him as a bit of a swing player, but
I think the price is now bad because, and that was the whole idea. Like me getting him last week. In the end, I'm like, well, I think worst case scenario, he probably makes another 100K. Like, yeah, okay, cool. If he comes to keeper, great. But now you're starting to pay up for him, and you've kind of got to make that decision between, say, him or a Zach Fisher, and that starts to become sort of difficult when you think. So, what's McKercher like 380 there? And you're in that sort of, well, it's only another 140K to get up to Rankin, 180K to get up to Zorko, 170K to Petrarca. Like these guys are legit premiums.
Yeah, or even McKercher to Stewart next week will probably only be 100,000.
Like 100K.
So, yeah.
We know Stewart, even though he's not got the greatest form at the moment, he's still, been a proven premium for how long? And we know what he does down at Geelong when they're not, getting absolutely towed there by Port, which was a massive shock. So yeah, I think it's now at the point where you've just kind of missed him, and you've got to go, well, okay, there was just one. If I was going to bring back, it needed to be a week or 2 weeks ago. In saying that, he is the same price as Zach Fisher, and some people are looking at Fisher with that break even, but I guess Zach Fisher is that more experienced guy. I kind of don't want to go both at 380 either. It's just I don't see Fisher being my worry with Fisher, as much as he's back in the role. It was only a few weeks ago where he was getting 70s and 80s in that role. Like, yeah, he got 95 against St Kilda. We've just talked about how crap St Kilda are in that position. I think the second half against the Suns, he only got 40. Maybe
he was sub in one, I think. I really want to hear the press conference, I think, because apparently Clarko gave him a bit of a props. So I think that's going to be a big key. And I think they have to play him because they gave him such a big contract.
Well, that's the hard thing too. Yeah, so they kind of do. But yeah, and he had an awesome game. But the hard thing, if it's not this week, you're not getting him. And I kind of want to see him again, just because they are mixing it up. The Bombers, I don't have the breakdown in front of me how the Bombers have been sort of going with defenders, but I don't think it's pretty good for defenders. Like Whitfield didn't have the greatest game. Like he was not too bad, Whitfield, but from he got the 100. But from more of a footy perspective, I didn't think he had the dominant performance because the Bombers didn't allow him. A lot of those other defenders that normally dominate, your Ashes, Idens and that, so-so games. So I don't think like the North Melbourne are just going to have a field day like they normally do, just the way the Bombers play. And then so you again move on to they've got one more week until their bye. So it becomes difficult. It also comes difficult if you're looking at Zorko this week. If you've already got McKercher, you might already have Green and like, I know it's the first bye, but how many of these first bye guys you're going to have? You really want to be trading them after they've had their bye. So I think I would have rather Fisher go 140 in a couple of weeks' time. So it's a real difficult time where he's had this big boost.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going there, so that's why I'm hoping Zorko gets a rest, so I can pick up Zorko next week. So see how that goes.
I think that's a good strategy. Like if Zorko was to get a rest, it changes everything, and potentially
I'm just
then Fisher
hoping
makes it a lot easier.
I'm just hoping Fisher becomes that F7, D7 that I can kind of just swing and loop, and to cover me in as a cheap player that looks like he might have that rollback. And I say might because it's a smaller sample, but he could be great value as that loophole player to get me a full side quicker, and then I'll get the extra premium in the buys.
The one thing you got to say about it is the forwards are so terrible this year, outside of probably the top 3 or 4, that you can easily take a punt on a Fisher, and he can be close enough to top 6. Like, it's not going to take much to be top 10 in the forward line this year.
No. Yeah, I feel you. Even when Jackson looks like a good idea and he's averaging horribly.
And HTC said the exact same thing. What are we thinking of Fisher? So because the forward line is so dull, is it worth a punt? And that is probably the thing. Like, we took a punt on Powell. You could side swap Powell straight into Fisher if you really wanted to do that. I continue just to hold Powell for whatever stupid reason. But Powell's break even actually is pretty good this week. It's only 69. So if you've got Powell, you can easily hold him and have another look, because that 49 will come out of his score. And if he resets, great. If he doesn't, well, you can look at his option. The best case scenario would be Zorko misses. You could go get Fisher, and then if you have a Tom Powell, you could just then trade Powell to Zorko.
Brisbane managing players like they're winning games.
I love it.
I just hope that Fisher's all line and no sinker. So we'll see.
I love it. Janko, who we got here? We overthink this game sometimes. Oh, absolutely. I know somebody said advice to me recently, got to get a couple cans going when you're making selections. And if my work allowed me, I definitely would. But just sometimes get the high premiums, high ceilings, paying up for Ryan this week. And that's fair. If you've got the cash to do it, by all means, you might have to pick up some value along the way. And your question in regards to value, I know what some Bomber supporters, because obviously I'm on the forums because of the other half of the Essendon ones, not the most liked player necessarily, but geez, I can't believe we actually got a question about Nick Hine. But I had this argument with Nath a couple of weeks ago saying, no, every player that I get asked about, I will definitely answer. I'm not like some of the other podcasts that'll just shoot them down, as you're going for a bit of a walk to the fridge there. But personally for me, I worry a little bit there about Hine, because he has been a sub risk in the past. I feel like he's always one bad game from being dropped. He played awesome on the weekend. The 121 couldn't do any more. I was watching it live and thought, Hindy's actually having a decent game this week. But I do have concerns where it could be 1 or 2 bad games and then he just goes back to being the sub. I think they quite like him out the role. The one positive is it's North Melbourne and Richmond coming up. So if he was to get on a roll, at 260, the break even's not too bad, being at -4. Like they've got him, Supercoach got him projected going 50. Like if he was to put out another 100, like, you're flying, because nobody's going to own this guy. He's in 0.2% of teams. Like, he's the ultimate pod. But I just think there's way too many question marks for me to willing to go there. But hey, if you do it and it pays off, you're going to be so far ahead of the comp. It's not funny. So,
or he will be behind.
Yes, behind. Love it. Love it, mate. Who we got here? On the Fisher train, Fab. Of course, you would be Corey. I'm sure you've probably got something about that. But Corey's got thoughts on Fife and Reid to Zorko and Rankin this week.
Rankin's a big one that everyone's on.
And that's the one which I had also in the photo, because I wouldn't mind that either. That's probably become sort of that Fisher versus Rankin if Zorko was to miss. I think if you had the choice between Zorko and Rankin, a lot of people going more Zorko. But Rankin's draw is just as good, if not better, than the Lions coming up. So you've definitely got to consider him. This week against the Pies, we know the Pies have leaked points, to those guys playing in the midfield. What's ranking at the moment? The 4th, 5th banana in there. So, he's getting enough CBAs. I think he had 10 of them this week. He's by far his biggest score for the year, but he has turned up 3 times. The great thing is he's only had the one score, low score, which was a 68, which was in round 3 against Freo. But outside of that, like his lowest score is 81, which is pretty good for a defender, and averaging 98 flying. So after the Pies, he's into the buys. He's got West Coast, Hawthorn, Richmond, and Sydney at home. So you couldn't probably get a more softer draw in regards to West Coast, Hawthorn, Richmond, unless North Melbourne was in there. So you could do a lot worse than picking Rankin up, and I think he's a fantastic option.
Shout out to Corey as well. Does everyone know that it's Corey from SC Elites? Surely everyone knows that that's Corey from SC Elites.
I guess.
What do you mean you guess? I
guess some people know. I don't know what people know.
We got the centre bounce on here, Corey from SC Elites on here, mate. And you have the highest female viewership of the Supercoach Insider crew, mate. You're just raking it in.
And Corey's got might look at Dunkley and Rosie as the last 2. We got here, Brian. Got to bring in one fresh rookie this week. Who do you like? Well, most of them, we've talked about that earlier. I know you're talking Sutherland, but we like the Brisbane guy, Brucey. I'm sure Chris will come on and say completely different thing. But we're.
Oh, you're not Corey? Come on. Oh, is it different Corey?
No, he's not. I said I thought it was a different Corey.
I was trying to look at the photo. I think I even asked Chris. I think it was.
No.
He was pretty quick to shut that one down. I'm not a
should have gone with it, mate. Should have just gone and said, get around me, guys. So I missed Jared's question. We'll come back to the hints. So I've got Ryan, Dacos, Sheasel, and Stewart, Bailey D in Houston. That's a great defence with Howes and Graham on the bench. Wow. Did I go too early with full primo defence? I have McKercher and Closeley in the midfield. Probably went one too early, but, mate, that defence is flying. You're in that one position that you could potentially be the one person that trades Sheasel with no issues. But, mate, you could definitely hold that and just let McKercher and Closeley keep going up in value and trade them to mids. But, mate, I wouldn't want to be a forward up against that defense, mate. That's fantastic. Okay, so what have we got? We've got Hitsky. Going Cadman and Harley to Stully and Heaney, 270 in the bank. Good rookie still mooing. I like it. You're right there, Benny boy.
Ooh. Oh, mate.
Queensland Air getting to you.
Oh.
His camera's all over the shop. Might be able to get a few swingmen for looping with extra trades. And mate, the swings will come in handy. I preach to that. The swingmen become more important than the trades later on the year, because you can obviously cover more lines when you've got injuries. People will be sitting there going, oh my God, I've got a midfielder missing and I can only potentially cover with a rookie, or you'll have those rookies not playing. So the fact that you'll be able to, bring it, swap people around in lines. If you've got, say, a forward rookie that can cover, they do come in important. So good thinking, and it's a good long-term planning. We always say that. I love that. So whatever Ben says, do the opposite. Love it, Fab. That's great.
Just on the last one, I'm not sure bringing in Heaney at that price.
That's a good point, mate.
Because I think his break even's now like 130 something. Parker has to. How many times can Parker get 37 touches and 9 clearances and 6 tackles and whatever and not get a game? So I just think with that high break even and their buy first up, I think Heaney's the one that you could probably actually wait on.
Well, the break even's still manageable because it's 132, but you could it's 2 weeks there. I don't feel like he's not going to go up in value. At worst, he's going to be the same value. So you could just pick him up after the buys if you wanted to, and that's obviously going to give you a bit of a leg up there. If you go somebody else this week and kind of plan around that, that's fine as well. But it's hard because how much money can you start paying up for these guys? I feel like some people are going to leave themselves short later in the season. But the cash cows are doing awesome, but the cash cows will, the latest ones coming through will take time to mature. So there's moo left in these ones as we had before, but how much moo can you keep getting out of these guys if you're paying for 630 and 660? It's a lot of money to pay up. Yep, I'm getting a nod there. So that's good. Did I say about Mike? Yeah, we talked about Mike. So I went risky last week. Sheasel to McKercher, and I went Soligo over Oliver. better buy. It was on 86 at 3/4 time, then went quiet. Yep. See how he goes with a decent run. And yeah, Soligo, yeah, that is a real left field one because that we just talked about the fixture with the draw coming up. He could definitely get on a roll and average 110. I think a few of these Crows. I hate the fact I have no Adelaide players in my team right now. And I'm trying to work out how I can get, because that's how I ended up losing my matchup last week, because I came up against teams with Dawson and Laird, or a couple who had ranking in, and just like I'm just going to get smoked here.
Do you know why I lost my matchup last week, Swiz?
Why, mate?
The guy had Kyle Langford.
Oh wow, what a pod!
And he went huge.
He did. He played so well. So well, mate. Oh, it's nothing worse than leagues. That's the hard thing with leagues. You come up against some person will have the most weirdest pod, and then of course you're the team that cops it, and you're just like, "Are you for real?"
Yes, I can handle like
draft.
I can handle a rookie versus a rookie. I can handle a premium versus another premium. I can't handle Kyle Langford averaging like 1.5 times his average in that game, and then losing my game. So
that's great. That's awesome. Jared, in response to my original question, should I sideways trade Sheasel to a Rao Walsh type and stick McKercher closer in defence? Like, I don't mind that so much. I think you've got to look at your buy structure as well. That's the important thing. Like, Rao and Walshy have the same round 14 buy. I'm just trying to think off the head. I'm pretty sure they do. So Sheasel obviously has the round 12. How does that affect your team? So do have a look at how many midfielders you have from that buy, because Melbourne, Carlton, Essendon, Gold Coast are that week. So just monitor that. If you don't have many round 14, then you could definitely do that. And Walshy and Rao, especially Walsh, he's on fire, averaging 119 at the moment. Rao's one of the best midfielders. Did have a quiet game. His break even will go up, but I think you could do worse than owning those two. Yep, got a head nod from Ben, so that's good.
Yeah, and I think if you've got McKercher and Cosley in the midfield, then you could definitely make some good moves that way.
Yeah, and you can always loophole them around and swap them around if need be, depending on their matchups. Kev, Oliver or Rankin this week? I've called just a touch. Like, I thought Oliver still played some good football. It's just hard because of that Crows fixture. But the D's, they're playing West Coast this week. I think Oliver's still a decent pickup. Still at the right price, but
I think he's building. He goes through pockets.
He definitely is building.
He goes through pockets where he just racks up the ball, and I think he's just going to get cleaner as he goes on.
Break even at 53.
Yeah,
and it could happen the next couple of weeks. Like, you've got West Coast, so that could be anything depending on what the D's do there. The Saints at the G, I think that's the big one. St Kilda are, struggling at the moment. We do know they've got North Melbourne and West Coast again after the bye, pretty well straight after the bye. The Pies midfielders do give up some points, and that'll be a massive game for the Kings' birthday clash. So, you could do way worse than Oliver. I was seriously looking at him last week. His game didn't really turn me off. I know a few, big shots on a few of these forums get on and go, I can't believe people traded in him. But, he did. He played some good footy. And I did say last week, the thing that probably is going to turn me off the most is Carlton's the hardest or second hardest midfield to score against. The reason my decision in the end, the way I went, and he did give away, 3 free kicks that didn't help his score. Conditions were shocking. Like, I think most players in the game had a AF minus to Supercoach. Supercoach minus to AF. So like, what was Walsh? 143 AF and then 119 Supercoach. And you just go through the whole list, and there weren't too many players that didn't have a positive rating in that. So, and Oliver was was the same. He had 99 AFL fantasy, 87 Supercoach on a better condition day. That could have been easily 110, 115 game, if not more.
Yep.
So,
and everyone goes by a recency bias, but you just have to remember, it's like picking up a blue chip stock that's dropped in price. You're paying at a discount for it. So you have to expect that, yes, he might not be performing well now, but you've got that, you've seen a few things happen. He's looking better. He's rolls better. His time on ground's going up. He just hasn't got it all to click perfectly just yet. I mean, he did really well just the week before that, But coming into West Coast, and you give that guy a little confidence, and he is someone you do not want to be having a match up against. So then if you're not going there, just expect that if your friends are going there, then you might be suffering and hurting when they get a good run. That's all I'll say.
My favorite thing about it is they lost as well. So if they win again, they can kind of manage players. Teams that are winning can manage players. Simple as that. Where Melbourne, they're still in the top 4, but there's so many teams clicking their heel. Like they have one more loss and they're out of the 8. It's like, it's that simple. So they've got to put up good performances and big performances up against some of these easier clubs coming up. They'll take no prisoners, and you hope that Clary gets in. And we know what he can do against weaker teams. Like if West Coast have more injury concerns this week, North Melbourne, he could just have a field day against them. So it's the sort of guy, if he gets going 140, 150, like the game he did against Geelong recently, it's not out of the question. So definitely somebody you've got to still have under consideration. All right, we'll go through. Skid said, what's Bombs up to? Bombs will be ahead of the world with the Blues, mate.
Yeah, my bad.
And Antonio, would you go Merritt and Sutherland, or use my last boost and go Zorko, Oliver, and Sutherland in? Would mean I'd only have 4 upgrades to go. I like the Zorko Oliver move myself. We know about Merritt's draw, no problems, but I think you're going to get similar output from Zorko towards Merritt, maybe slightly less, but obviously you're upgrading a rookie to Oliver anyway. So, mate,
two premiums is the win there. Plus, outside of Sullivan, go the Rev.
Exactly. We're on the Rev, but if you want to be on Sullivan, I've got no problems with it either. Feels like an overreaction with Reed. He's still got a great role, 80% CBAs on the weekend. I'm a little bit different, Drive, because I don't own him. I haven't owned him for a while, but
I'll tell you my concern though.
For me to speak about, but as much as the role is still good with him and the forwards are great, it's just I think the bigger issue there, because they didn't have Yo. Now, if Yo was there, the bigger body to protect him, it does make life easier.
Defensive mid as well.
Yeah. So I think you showed it. You could see how bad sort of Kelly, Sheed, those guys played without Yo in there. So they rely very heavily on him. Reed will bounce back. He'll have better games than that. He's still got the 17 touches. I can understand why, if you'd want to keep him, no problem in the world. But I think a lot of other people are thinking this is him maxing out in cash, and I'm going to get the high return for him.
And that's it. I think it's okay one way or the other. If you go, hey, this is someone I want to keep for the whole season because I think he's going to average you 90 and he's going to get you those 100 games now and then with some big ceilings now and then, and you're just going to keep him because he only costs you 200,000, that's okay. Or you go, hey, this is someone who's had a really big score and he's now gone up in price to a point where you can pretty much just throw a little bit more coin on him and get you a different premium, someone you have more confidence in, then that's also fine. So I don't think there's a really wrong way to do it. I don't know if it's an overreaction. It's just some people are going, okay, I don't think I want him for the whole season because they might manage him, they might rest him. Yo's not there. If Yo gets injured again, which is also possible because it's groin related, there's that defensive mid gone, so therefore it's a liability. That's where you're kind of trying to cash out your chips going, he's made heaps of money, you've done your job as a rookie, and I'm moving on.
Exactly. I was actually just looking at the West Coast game in my draft stars. I finished 5th. I didn't even realise in that game. Oh, it's like the one that let me down was Lipinski. Why the hell I picked that guy? Here we go. What's Corey? Corey's got he came up in round 1 against somebody who he doesn't rate as a good coach, and he has the wrong captain and you lost. Yeah, it can be brutal. Hey fellas, Skits, thoughts on Jackson Mead while Rosie's out, pretty decent run up to the buys, and he had 42% CBA. So I feel like what happened was Wines took over Rosie's role, and then Mead took over Wines, which is why obviously Wines had an absolute field day. I'm just trying to see what Mead's now priced.
Mead got like 100.
Yeah, he had an awesome game. But it's just
but when Rosie's not going to miss many games,
no,
and
that's
then
the
it'll
problem.
be
like I get Mead's 238, so he's only gone up 30,000 this year.
Yeah, because he's had
But
buys.
yeah.
He's sub.
Well, yeah, the week before he was 10, and I know all about it because I've got him in my AFL fantasy deep. I was going to say keeper, but it's dynasty.
I've got him in a dynasty. Yeah, I've got him in
Yeah.
dynasty too.
Yeah, and it's so I had him last week in 10 because I had no other midfielders, and I was hoping to get on early. And of course, I benched him this week, and he got 105 because it's like I was playing Geelong, and my midfielders are back. So it's a hard one because even the break even, it's not like that flash this week. Like 21, like he could go pretty well. You know, they're playing the Hawks. What they yeah, he should beat that. But then what happens if Rosie comes back the next week? Yes, they do have North the following week. He'll still get his opportunity, but I just think that role could change. So you might be in a situation where he might only make, 50K, 60K. It's not like if Rosie was missing the season, I think it's a completely different story.
Yeah, I agree.
Michael, again, with forward lines being slim, should we just wait for and fill the other lines? Yep, and I've got no problem. I actually played around that with my head today going, I could go out and if Zorko missed this week, get Rankin and then get Zorko next week. And my forward line's pretty well finished. My defense is finished, but I've got massive holes in my midfield. Or do I want to go the other way and go, well, the forwards, you've still got guys like Darcy if you've still got him. I know quite a few people traded him this last week, but, he just pops out and scores a 113. You've got Darcy Wilson, 90, Comben, 98. Now, these rookies aren't going to score that every week, but there's enough rookies that seem to be popping on any given week to at least, Darcy's average is 78, so is Comben's. They're putting up some good scores. So Harley Reid is was previously said by Jai, if you wanted to keep him, some people are even considering keeping 5, thinking, well, he's not going to give away, 6 free kicks every week. And that's kind of what I've got with Tom Powell at the moment. Like I feel like it's either Fife or Powell out for me, but I could easily hold one because they're still going at 80, and that's not too bad as a forward. So
I was so upset that George Hewitt was sub last week. Except I reversed my trade and I kept Darcy. Because at the time I was so angry. I was like, why are you sub? I was like, oh my God, now I had to get rid of him. And I was like, so I brought in, Zach Merritt because I figured he's a must have. The one person I'd spend up for. And anyway, then Darcy went big and I was like, oh, there you go, restart your cash, Jen, and you get a little bit more time. So
yeah, so if you take out, let's take out Alex Davies because he's played one game. But your top 10, so there's the clear ones. We know Heaney, Flanders, Zorko. Actually, no, we take out Joe Richards as well because he's in there as well. So you've got those are the clear 3. And then you've still got Jackson, Rankin, which we're obviously looking potentially at Rankin this week. And then it massively drops off. So you've got Harry Mackay, who is averaging 97, but 1 week will put up a 60. Next week puts up a really good score. Waterman's out at the moment. Charlie Curnow, again, a key forward. If he's got the right run, you could potentially drop on. But, it's key forward, so it goes up and down. Dylan Moore's up there. He probably had his worst game in a month, but he'll bounce back. And then you start getting down to your Myers, Hogan, Norton's up there, Caldwell, Langford. That's why they've got Langford, mate. He's actually up in that sort of top 15. And then your Powell and Reeds and those guys are in the mix, not far off it. So, you got guys kind of sitting around that top 15, 20 mark who their average is, they're averaging, what do we say, sort of 84, 85s. And there's guys there in that sort of top 10 mark who are only averaging 90. It's like 6 points a week. Is that really worth, trading at the moment? Probably not.
I'm still optimistic that there's going to be some DPP inclusion. And that's the other part that comes into it as well.
It's
like surely.
I think there's a part of me that goes, I kind of want to wait as well. It depends on Zorko because he's flying and he's a clear top 3. So that's a different story. But if he was to miss this week, can I get somebody else in, which helps another line, and leave myself enough cash to go target him next week? So teams are going to be huge, and we can't answer it yet because we don't know what the line's going to do. It's all speculation. But it's just, I think if you've got the opportunity to probably look at other lines, I'd be going there without, like the previous question earlier about, loading up your defense. You kind of want to balance out your lines. You want to, and I think the forward's been the weakest line. You want to probably leave a couple of spots just in case dual positions open up. Okay, Jono, good day, legends. The trades that Binger is looking at is Harley and Howes to Revel and Zorko. My team now has 17 keepers, 2 defenders, 1 mid, 1 ruck, and 1 forward to go. Yeah, I think that's pretty normal there, mate. And you're on that whole Brisbane train, which
Binger, we know who you are, mate. You don't have to say you're third
yeah.
person. We know who you are, Ben.
The Lions just, and I think a lot of people looking at the Lions because my boys. That's a quick. Are you going this week, Benny? Are you going to watch my mob get absolutely trounced?
Depending on, I need to check the timing. So at the moment, so my wife is now going. She's back at work. So the issue is she works Thursday day and then Friday night. So if they play on a Friday night, I'm cooked.
It's Saturday night this week.
Yep. So then I'm good. Yep.
Yep.
So all good. So that's the only issue I'm going to have.
I said to my other half, I was like, "Oh, could I just fly up after cricket this week?" I've got, and that's not a Carlton top for somebody who's messaged me before. It's my cricket club chat. We're playing this.
No,
week.
I'll be there. I'll be there Saturday.
On about cricket, JP makes his return to our cricket club this week, so that should be a bit of fun. The Supercoach legend himself. So
tell him to keep the balls away from his chin, will you?
Pretty well. We'll be sitting in slips, and he'll probably be in gully, and I'll just be giving him Supercoach shit all day, and we'll be just a bit of Supercoach banter, which is always fun in the cricket field. Yeah, mate. English to score. It's hard. Like, I know this was a question earlier about Ryan's score as well and how Supercoach works and stuff like that. Like, okay, he's had the 31 hitouts. The hard thing with Rucks, it's about kind of their hitouts advantage and their influence there. I didn't think actually watching the game, English had the normal influence he normally does. The stats don't look too bad, but English, I think he gets involved better around the plays and links up more in scoring chains. I didn't feel like it was that sort of typical English game, just watching it live without sort of looking at the stats every 2 seconds. And I tend to do that more, obviously, when Richmond games are involved. So just kind of watch the footy and make my mind up from there. And it just didn't feel like it was that typical English game. The other thing that hurt him too is because there were some players just going off tap. Apart from Neutral Law and Bont, the forwards, Harms, Norton, Darcy, they were just having a field day. And then, that's without bringing Richards into account. And Richards,
I think it was mainly the fact as well, like they kind of bypassed him a little bit more because normally if they have to kind of kick mark and then sort of link up and then he handballs it off, they use English a lot more. If it gets held up, then they look to use English because he overworks his ruckman to then become an option. Whereas when you're going, fast and you're using your hands and you're using your feet to kind of, like you're running through, all their mids just went huge, dude. Like they just got on the outside and they just used the overlap and the speed. So that's kind of why I think they didn't use him as much, because there was less defensive pressure from Richmond.
Yeah, exactly. And he had no influence early in that game, in that first quarter, which always does hurt you. Okay, Ryan, it's a different story. I can discuss that afterwards. But I didn't feel like he sort of came into it until about halfway through the second quarter. So I think that kind of hurt him because there was other Bulldogs players just dominating the game, and they were getting the spike in regards to a Supercoach performance too. So there was a couple of things. I can see why you're potentially disappointed there if you're an owner, but there were other guys that were dominant. All right, here we go. Where we go, Jared. Who do we target first out of the Adelaide players? I like it. So you got Rank, Dawson, Crouch, Soligo, Laird, or is there anyone else? I don't think there's anyone else that comes to mind. Personally, I like Rankin just because it's the forward.
Dawson. Let's rank him.
Yeah, Rankin. We'll rank.
Rank the Rankin.
I'm going to go.
So how many is there? Five people.
Yeah, so I'd go. Mine's Rankin, Dawson, Laird. I kind of like Soligo as a player, so I'm a little bit biased against Crouch these days. So I'm going to go, Rankin, Dawson, Laird, Soligo, Crouch.
And I'll go Dawson, Rankin, Laird, Soligo, Crouch.
Yep, cool.
Similar.
That helps, Jared. Similar. Should I get Holmes and Zorko or Butters and Myers? Holmes and Zorko, mate. Not only does that, I like Zorko so far more than Myers. It's not funny. But Holmes is pushing himself, or at least in that top 10 conversation. And I kind of want, there's a part of me that's thinking that too. Like, I kind of want to own a cat.
I'd go Stewart and Zorko, just quietly.
I don't mind the idea of going Holmes over Stewart. as a bit of a left field. Like Holmes is getting enough of the ball. I know we've bagged Holmes in the past and stuff like that, but this year,
No. Last year I bagged Holmes. This
yeah,
year he's good.
exactly.
This
But the
year he's
role
fine.
they keep looking at him and like as the link up player, and if he's not coming off half back, they'll link up through him. So I think he's actually quite a good option this year. Think he reminds me of what Duncan was sort of like 3 years ago when Duncan was right at his best. Now we know Duncan's obviously had his injury concerns and a little bit older. So, and Holmes is also was it his contract year now? Has he resigned? Can't remember where that all sits, but he they definitely I think it was Collingwood. There was a couple of clubs might have been chasing him. So yeah, we always know those sort of contract years players sort of come out of their shell and do their thing. So I don't mind that as a difference. Like personally, I probably do still lean towards Stewart, but yeah, I think Holmes has shown enough that he's a really solid contributor this year. All right, Nath. Don't know if we've talked about Shees. Yes, we've talked about Shees. You have to go through that, but I'm thinking Shees, Roberts, Howes, to Sutherland, Oliver, and Martin. Both. I'm guessing that's
Ollie.
Oliver. Yeah, Oliver and Martin. Great run for 4 or 5 weeks. Yep, and mate, the fact that you're ranked 874, maybe we should take advice off you, Nath. But yeah, I've already got Martin.
Oh,
Martin's
how much
fine.
did Roberts stink though? Hey, you kind of had to
I was so glad
get
I
off
traded
last week. Hey, so bad.
Yeah, I went Roberts to Ryan. And at halftime, that wasn't looking the greatest trade. So talk a bit about Ryan. So from my point of view, and I know a few of the other content creators have had their say, I try not to get into the whole Twitter debate straight after the game because emotions do get flying with a few things like that. Yes, the game was over. So even if you sort of do the spread and go, okay, the first half's worth, say, 60% of points, and the second half's worth 40% of points. So that's like, 20% of points in the last quarter. There's
still a lot of points.
There's still 600-ish points to go, given out.
Yeah.
And Ryan was double the amount of meters gained to the next player out in the field, which I think was excellent.
So and I think they talk about scaling as well being, like 1.5 to 2% bump or down, like based on scaling. Do you know what I mean? Like if you do something good, you might go up 2%, whereas that's not, people think that scaling is this big thing, but, and it is, but it's not that astronomical. Yeah. And the other thing that I think people miss as well is, like all these cheap kicks or whatever. It's like, yeah, but if you're the quarterback and people are kicking it backwards and they're not getting points really because they're kicking it backwards to you and then you're launching it with a big long kick to a contest, that's an effective kick with lots of meters gained, right? It's a defensive 50 rebound. You're just racking up points. Now, don't hate the system. Don't hate the player. Don't hate the game is what I'm saying. It's just it is what it is. There's a little bit
I can understand about hating the game there, but the thing still with Ryan, like he had that last quarter, so he's had 13 disposals and 5 marks, and they're all kicks, and we know kicks are worth so much more. Yes, okay, there were some cheap ones because of the amount of kickouts he's got, and that might be a question of tinkering the rules because players can take cheap kickouts for now. So I can understand that potentially going forward. But if he'd done that in the first quarter, he could have been nearly on 80 at quarter time because it was just ridiculous how far ahead of everyone else he was. But the fact of because he was 10 goals down, everybody's kind of crying about it. Yeah, and potentially the other rule is, do they look at changing the fact that you can bomb the ball 50 meters to a contest, or not necessarily direct turnover, but not be advantage to your teammates and get like kind of full points for it. And maybe there needs to be a tweaking. The only part I was watching, like I'm at the Essendon Giants game and I was watching that too. And I'm like, there was a play where say Zach Merritt got the ball and he gets it contested, does everything right, kicks it forward. And just because of Peter Wright's bad positioning, that ball ended up turning over into the Giants' hands. And I'm thinking, is that Zach Merritt's fault? Because he did every right, kicked that ball to the position it needed to be, and he's wouldn't get rewarded points for that. So sometimes I'm like, I get why we have those. If a player does kick it 50 meters and they still get their allotment for it. So I know a lot of people are sort of wanting that change, but I think that's not always on the kicker's fault. And
we always need to have like a minus score for getting muscled out. You know, like if you get muscled out of it, it's like
Yeah.
you deserve to have points against you. Like when Tex Walker pushed someone out of the contest and kicked it into the goal square, hey, guess what? You should lose points for that. Or if
I
Zach
think
Merritt kicks a perfect one, you know.
the one you probably could change is half points maybe for kickouts. So if it's 3 or 2 points or whatever, they only get one potentially just for a kick out. Because now I don't think Supercoach ever changed those rules when now players just go down there for the cheapie, can run out now and get that. And I would rather see maybe an extra couple points for goals and even maybe 2 to 4 points because that brings the key forwards and small forwards more into play. So I could live with goals being 10 points and maybe just a little deduction on those kicking out. And you'd probably get a little bit more of a balance because some of these defenders are all going 100 plus, and you look at the forwards. So I think there needs to be a little bit of balance between those, what the points the forwards can potentially get.
You're just saying that because the forwards suck this year.
No, but the forwards went well last year because they're all midfielders. The genuine forwards don't score well every year, and it's fact. So that's up onto champion data, and because Supercoach comes from champion data. So champion data are pretty well saying unless you're kicking a bag of 6 as a forward, you're useless. We actually rate guys taking kickouts better than you as the effect on the game, and I think most people agree that the forwards are getting shafted here. So
flashback to last year, start of the season, everyone's like, "Oh, there's no forwards to pick." I'm like, I hate that now. Like now we have actually no forward options. So thank you.
Yeah. And at least it's the same for everyone, and you can have a crappy forward who's averaging 80 and still be top 20. But yeah, you'd rather, if you're kicking 4 goals in a game or 5 goals in a game, like we just talked about Langford there, who was I think he got top coaches points votes by the coaches because he was the best player on the ground and played well, and he's kicked 4 and was influential. 119, like, was Hines 121 better than Langford's? No. Like, Langford was such a better player on the field than Hines. But because Hines, that sort of halfback wing role, even Redder's like, now Redmond kicked a big goal late. So, obviously gets a bit of a bump there. But
it's easier to say that now, Swiz, because now you have hindsight.
Yes. But you go through every game like that, and we see forwards who, do have a big influence on the game. And especially low-scoring games where, a forward can sort of bob up and kick 3 and get a 50-point game for it. But they've been really influential in a game which is like 60-40. A real low-scoring game. Now I have to look at like the other night. Look at like Petrarca, like 134. That's like Petrarca scored more than that before in a game. He was, again, clearly probably the best player and the most influential player in the ground. He's kicked 5, which Petrarca's never done in his career. And he gets a normal midfield score for it. And then you go down for like, you can go through any game like that. So I'm thinking especially if you're kicking 5 in a low scoring game, you probably should be walking out more than 130 points.
Because you don't get the inside 50, you don't get the long meters to effective disposal.
Exactly.
You're relying on your mark and then your goal.
Your goal. And you get the goal, you get 6 points for it. So I think a lot of the content creators in particular have been talking about saying, Supercoach, champion data, there needs to be a little bit of a balance. What?
I thought it was 8 for a goal.
Is it 8?
I thought it was 8 for a goal.
I thought it was 6.
And then you get like for a contested mark, it's worth more.
You get the point. Yeah. You 6 plus you get the kick. So technically, it's like 8 or whatever there, but the actual goal's only 6.
Fact check. I don't know.
Yeah, fact check that. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But even if it's 8, then it needs to go to 10 or 12.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That's cool. So that's my little bitch about that. Corey, I was trading Darcy before Massimo got rested, so a few people got pretty luck there. I got drunk and took Drury instead of Garcia, still waiting for a score.
Well, I was in bed with bloody gastro. I put the emergency on Jones, expecting to put Garcia on field if he didn't do well. And I was in bed, like I was in no shape to care about football at all. And then once I saw that obviously there's about a 47-point differential, I was like, like I wish I didn't take Jones.
You are right. Goals is, it is 8 points. Sorry, my bad. But still. Yeah. And that actually makes it worse because the fact
easy to throw punches on the sideline, Swiz.
Yes. 8 points and it's still, players are still scoring that. like then it definitely needs to be boosted. I brought Bolton in round 5.
Right, I'm pretty sure I said Dusty Martin would be a top 10 forward.
Oh my god, I feel for you so much, Nick. And I
Oh,
keep going to games. My mates give me crap about this because I'm like, Bolton he'll mark the Clara game and kick 12 in a game one day, but it's just not happening anytime soon. It's just the problem is because the injuries. As much as we wanted to see midfield time, they're actually trying to keep him in forward because there's no other forward to potentially kick goals for Richmond. So he's not getting up the ground. It's actually the reverse, where if we probably had a couple extra forwards in, they'd probably let him go to around the midfield. But break even of 166, which he is not getting anywhere near against Brisbane.
How much is he priced now?
He's 459.
Ooh.
Now this is where it comes interesting because Richmond have the bye at round 15. And then on the run home, there are some games which I now hope we don't win. I'd love to get Josh Smiley if we could somehow have North beat us. But you still got North, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Gold Coast, Fremantle.
You reckon Smiley's number 1?
I think Smiley's number 1.
Yeah. Ashcroft
doesn't matter because he's
no, I know that, but if Ashcroft was,
I think maybe Smiley ahead of Ashcroft but it's close.
Wow.
It's close. But they haven't done the national champions yet, and I think that changes everything because when you're actually playing against like it's easy to play against your other school football because the depth isn't there. But once you actually line up against the best in the country, we get a real. So at the moment, I think it's Smiley just because what he's doing for the Eastern Rangers. But that can, my thoughts. I always watch the under-18s carnival because that's where I go. This time of year, like, I've got a bit of a idea of it, but not that closely because that's where it really comes in. And there's always a bolter after the national championship where somebody gets their body right or whatever, and they come home fire. Oliver, Bond, all those sort of guys. There's always someone like that, but. I think national champions. Let's wait until that finishes, and then I might even do a show on my top because I know there's quite a few people are trying to start looking at their keeper positions and trading and all that sort of stuff. So
maybe Saints should watch some more bolters and
I might. I'm the Cal Toomey who actually answers questions for the public and that.
Yeah, sorry, Bingo.
No, I do like the work Beveridge and Cal Toomey do, but there's sometimes a bit frustrated with the lack of questions they do answer. So Bolton's going to get to about 410, 400 next week, and then that's going to be interesting. Probably gets a spike against Essendon just because it's the Dreamtime game. But then the Tigers play Geelong and then Adelaide leading into the bye. So it could be real ugly. So Shea Bolton at 370, 380. Maybe I'll get tempted if Richmond gets some players back. But you've got to trade him now, mate. It's just unfortunate because you've obviously lost your cash and you're scoring no points. But, mate, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But that was looking really good that period of time when the Tigers were playing some good footy.
Finger's still online. I've triggered him.
Joey, is Tom Stewart worth jumping on now that he's bottomed out? Yes, he is. There's no doubt about that. They've got a good draw. I think there's a couple of these bottom out defenders. So a few people messaging me about Jaden Short, 382. Am I scarred because I started him and, we know what he did early in the season, but that 15 comes out now because of the injury, 115.84 last couple of weeks, seeing plenty of ball down there. You're not going to get him any cheaper probably.
What's his break even?
380 and his break even is, how do I go back to that page? 18.
So, yeah.
It's, that's, if you look like you're going to need some value, you could do a lot worse than go Jaden Short at that price. I still think Vlosson's our best defender, but nonetheless. But then Tom Stewart at 500k, break even of 97. He went massive last year against the Suns, but that was up in the Gold Coast. This year it's at Darwin. Slipperier conditions, can be hard to take intercept marks up there. Saying that now, he probably goes really well, but I feel like you could again potentially hold off this week on getting Stewart just because I don't think he's going to hurt you too much just because of those conditions. Have a look at and see what happens. But I kind of really want to be owning Stewart by the week after because the draw really opens up. So they got the Giants down there and Geelong, then Richmond, which he'll carve. And then he's got a whole lot of MCG in Geelong games. So we know how much he loves playing at Geelong and the MCG. Yeah, get back involved, mate. Not a problem. I talked to Benny Boy about that. Thinking about keeping Meek at R2. Yeah, I wouldn't be trading Meek right now. Meek's flying. Well done to anybody who got on Meek. That's good. And then look at trading him up to English.
I traded Mickey out.
Oh, brutal. It's a tough game sometimes, mate.
For sweet.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I can understand that. But yeah, he's made 150K flying along. He's going to make you more money. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, that's been a great trade-in for those who went there. Michael, thoughts on? Yeah, no, we just talked about that one. Corey, could you have Dacos in the mid? You could, if you've got plenty of. If you like some of those defenders, those cheaper ones, Sinclair, Stewart, we talked about short, and you get on players with a good run, you could. The only issue about that is some of these defenders are not going to score as good as the midfielders. You only have to have a look at what the defenders score.
Like Sinclair against Petrarca or someone. It's like, I think I'd rather Petrarca.
Yeah, that's right. Like Houston, that's 109. That's pretty good. But yeah, Neil, like we talked about before, being top 10, and is still 112, 113. So you're probably giving about 5 points a player by doing that. So it's not terrible, but I'd rather the other way around.
I'd rather have that D7, like F7 kind of swing player to cover you if you have an injury, rather than put that person in the midfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and here's Corey. He's like when close was it? It was like Shadow Brain in the last quarter. In the last quarter, when close, he got 34 for his disposals, rather than it could have been like 20 or less if not close. Yeah, that was the hard thing. Yeah, English, and we talked about this in blowouts. Unless you did like what Ryan did and just ridiculous quarter, like next level quarter. He did what it was like kicking 4 goals in a quarter kind of situation for a defender. So unless you're doing that in a blowout.
What are you saying? It was insane in the Shadow Brain?
Mike, I agree with more points. Yeah, I think I will get a lot of there. Also, forwards kick straighter, then the Seagulls would have less kickouts. That is true. But kickouts have kicking for goal hasn't changed in a long time, outside of being blessed watching a lot of footy during the 90s, and how good for anybody who's around that sort of 30 or 40s or older who got to watch, Lockett, Modra, Dunstall, Ablett, Carey, Longmire, the list goes on and on. There was Lloydie. There's so many great forwards back then. It would have been great. Would have been awesome playing Supercoach then. And just these forwards kicking 12, 15 on any given week. How good.
I really hope Jed Walter becomes the next big forward. He's got the body for it.
I don't care who it is. I just want to see a key
forward.
Well,
he's got the body for it. Jed Walter, he's a big boy.
He is. And he could definitely develop the Suns and be that player. But it would be nice to see a forward just sort of get on. Even I'm not even asking for 100 goals a year, but have a couple of them who, if you can average 4 a game and they get the fact they play more games now, there might be half a chance. But it'd be good to just get in between that sort of 80 and 90 mark. And but you do have a point there. Petrarca didn't get heaps of scaling for that last goal because they didn't get the lead, and that is true. If they'd if obviously they hit the front, they get that bonus. Thoughts on Oliver versus Steele for the last midfield position? That's a good question.
Oliver.
Yeah, I'd still lean towards Oliver, but
I know Steele had the better season so far, but have you seen how limp he is when he has any kind of issue? He just goes horrible. And I think Oliver's kind of just building.
The Saints need to start winning, but if they lose one more game, and who do we say? If they lose the Freo this week, they may as well just put a fork in their season.
Someone needs to create a bingo card for Ross Line excuses to deflect in press conferences.
Yes, 100%.
Bingo. While the umpires, all the subs.
Awesome question this week because I haven't talked about it. So vice captains and captains, I've got a clear idea of which way I want to go here. Might you let you take this first, Benny? But I've already got it.
No, I'm pretty sure I've got the same. I think I'm going with Butters into Gorn because a lot of the other matchups look quite, a little bit more similar, I think. So I think I've got Butters into Gorn.
Okay, yeah, I'm slightly different. I don't think I can ignore Luke Ryan against St Kilda. So
Yes, if you have that luxury, for sure.
So I'm thinking Ryan into Butters. But yeah, you could definitely like Gorn. Gorn probably goes really well. You could look at Zach Merritt. Great. If you've got one of the Lions, I'd prefer to vice captain one guy like that. But if you have Dunkley, Neil, or Zorko, all going to be tempting as a VC option. So I think your vice captains and captains are coming from St Kilda game onwards. Super Sunday this week. Well, we've pretty well dubbed it from Saturday night into Sunday. Could be the worst 4 games of footy for the season. I think Brisbane will absolutely trounce Rich. Like Brisbane need to win, and Richmond are going to offer nothing. So I expect that to be 3 figures. Essendon versus North. North have matched up really well the last couple of years, and Essendon don't really blow out teams. I think they've got to show that they can actually put a score, a big margin up against one of these lower teams. And their percentage didn't mean anything until Adelaide and Brisbane drew. So yes, they've got the more wins. They've got the 6 wins where Brisbane and Adelaide only have the 3. And obviously Collingwood's got the 5. But they wouldn't want a situation where more of the Lions get on a roll and the Bombers, drop a couple games later in the year. And I think that gap could become a lot closer. The Bombers keep winning, well, all good to them, but a percentage of 98 could potentially become an issue. Like you don't think about it now, but come round 24, you wouldn't want to be relying on having to win a game to make finals because your percentage is so bad. And the last game of the season is Brisbane versus Essendon. So just throwing that out there, I think they do need a big scalp and a big win. And then the other 2, like Port Adelaide, Hawthorn. Hawthorn have been playing some good footy, but Port, they for a half a footy, they just killed Geelong there. I think they should do a number there. And West Coast Melbourne, like good luck Eagles. Okay, here we go. Corey, I remember when Steele got 30 points against North when he got the lead last year. So we're still going on about this. They're definitely, mate. So I'll go that. Ben, I'm after you. Yes, good, Jono. Better lock the front door. Jacko, who's the biggest must have price, not an issue? I don't have
Jono, my front door's locked, but my back door's wide open.
Oh, God. Okay, so who's the biggest must have? I don't have Heaney, Ryan, Sarong, Merritt, or Butters. That's brutal. Not having any of them.
I think price is always an issue.
Oh, well, price, but if price is an issue, you might have a ton of money there, mate.
Yeah, for one person. But what about the other trades?
Well, that's always the thing. But yeah. So anyway, let's just go with the question anyway, mate. I'm leaning towards Sarong, or Butters, but I just kind of like Sarong. I think Sarong could be leading the Brownlow right now.
I'm saying Heaney because the most point differential is between your top 6 forwards. Midfielders you can pick up.
Sarong has a big lead as one of the best. Like that gap between him and the 8th best.
Yeah, for now doesn't mean it's going to happen for the whole season though.
But you just talked about Parker could be coming back for Heaney, like for the Swans. That could have a negative effect on Heaney. Sarong, that nothing's changing for Sarong.
It's Sarite.
So I think Sarong first, but yeah, Ben's gone Heaney, which is fine. But
yeah, I just wouldn't buy Heaney yet. But
I wouldn't buy Heaney yet.
I think as far as for the structure of the side,
Sarong's a captain option as well. Like on any given week, he's really reliable now. Like
I'm actually annoyed that I've neglected some of the Butters and Sarong VC and C's in my side, and then I've put like Bontempelli and stuff. Just because it's safer.
Yeah, safe. So Sarong's last 3 weeks, he's gone 140, 137, 150. And I know we because me in particular, because I live in Victoria, there's always that focus on the Melbourne teams, and even a little bit more the New South Wales with Heaney, and I guess maybe because of that South Melbourne link or whatever, or just because of the closeness. But a lot of people would probably have, say, Merritt or a Heaney leading the Brownlow or up there. But yeah, just because like Freo, because they've been winning, and we saw what happened like the year Ollie Wines did it. Teams winning, somebody's got to get the vote. The votes. They've won 5 games, been in a couple other games. Would not surprise me after 9 rounds if Sarong is the Brownlow leader.
Mate, shout out to Mike dropping more cash.
Mate, Mike's a friggin' legend. Dead set legend. Hangers should be worth more. Yeah, Hangers. Oh God, Hangers 45 points, knees on shoulders. Oh, could you imagine that, Modra?
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's
any person that flops for a free or something should get -4.
Well, that too.
They get the free kick negated.
Yeah. Okay, where was I here with some of these? Yeah, we talked about that. Thoughts on Cherry Meek? Mate, Cherry Meek's flying. Well done. It was MJ who came on the podcast earlier in the year. Coaches panel, check him out. And he was huge on Cherry preseason. And I nearly went there, but the problem was Grundy dominated Gorn in that match, and I couldn't. But I was so close to starting Cherry. Love it, mate. And the thing is, you keep them until they don't. The moment they drop off, well, then you look at those other guys, your Gorn Englishes, Marshalls, in particular Gorn and English. But mate, why they're performing, enjoy the ride, because they're just massive pods and they're keeping up with everyone else. So,
yeah, round the buys is a good time though, anyway, because otherwise, trading before that point, if you're sideways into another premium, you're losing some upgrade cadence anyway. Because instead of you getting another premium in your side, you're just changing one premium to another that you'd like slightly better. So the buys are a perfect time.
Like Gorn's the one that you're more worried about because he's averaging 130. You're not having them. But Tim English is only averaging 114. He's only 6 points more than Cherry. Like the gap's not huge. So yeah, you love doing that. And because Meek, you paid so little for him, it's only a 10-point gap there to the number 2. Like who cares? Like you.
Do you know what I've done? You know, I've done in one of my draft leagues, Swiz. Forwards are so bad, and you're taking the lowest scoring bench player that I've just dumped 2 forwards, and I'm playing Meek and I'm playing Nankervis as my forwards.
Yeah.
It's so dirty and it's not right, but the system allows it. I was like, you know what? Yeah. I'm playing 3 forwards
I've done that. And the other thing I do is I stream forwards non-stop and draft. So like this week, I'm just looking at like Brisbane players, Melbourne mid forwards, because like, okay, they're going to all go off. So yeah, any given week, I'm just streaming like F4, F5, F3. One draft would pretty well F2 onwards. Swiz, you were happy with the Tigers' effort, like Uze mentioned in his preference, efforts towards a better draft pick, 100%. I was chanting that so much. I was like, yes, number 1. Watch North Melbourne stuff this up 2 years in a row. And as much as you don't want to, so I had a great chat today. So the job I do, I'm a train driver, but I'm also an infield trainer. So I've got a guy with me at the moment, big Bombers fan. So obviously we're driving around together and we just talk footy. And he asked me about that. He goes, should there be a different system? Because you shouldn't be, as a supporter, cheering for the fact that you want to finish last just to get the next superstar kid. It was like West Coast last year. Like, awesome. They get Harley Reid. It's changed everything for them. West Coast supporters are actually wanting to turn up the footy to watch this kid play. And I feel like if it's Smiley or whoever it be next year is a clear number 1 and can potentially come in your midfield and start to revamp your team. But the hard thing is, like, you're actually cheering for your team to lose. Now, North, on the other hand, we've talked about that, and it's a longer rebuild and that. But like you add, for us, if we could get the number 1 pick and add that with a fit Taranto, a fit Hopper, some of the players that we have come back from the injuries that we've got. I have to look at like the Giants when they had a bad year. Finn Callahan comes in their team and adds so much to that team now, and they've been competing close to a grand final. The Brisbane team and Collingwood getting that little bit of an advantage because of the father and son, but that's the system. But the Ashcroft comes in, Dacos comes in, and also all of a sudden, because of that high pick, has revamped their side. It's much better than sort of talking to a few St Kilda supporters the other day at Flinders Street. And they were saying, the frustrating thing for them is they keep finishing sort of, 7, 8, 9, 10. You end up getting bumped back because of the academy and the father-son, the 10th best player every year.
Do you know the Lions have got another academy player that was I think they had a top 30 for next year's. He's currently ranked number 8. He's currently at my school. I raved about him when he was
It's
under
all
12.
you there, Benny. It's all
No,
you,
not me
Benny.
at all.
Zero. We're claiming it, Benny.
Zero about
We'll
me.
you on
But
the
this was someone when he was 12 years old. I was like, this kid's going to play AFL. He's just a freak.
Why don't we have him on the pod yet?
I could probably try and get a drive by. There's another one as well that's I think going for academy this year. But yeah, this guy inside outside midfielder. So another inside outside midfielder. Just an absolute freak. Yeah.
If you live in Queensland, find Ben's school, send them there because he's the recruiting farm for the Brisbane Lions.
No, our school does actually have the most. Our school does have the most Brisbane Lions academy players in Queensland, though.
There it is.
So,
there it is. It's all the
boys.
sports
That's for boys and girls, though.
Yeah.
So
good work. You're doing God's work up there for the Lions, Benny.
And Harley McQueen, I think, is Australian full forward for the females, so she should be going through for the females AFLW as well at some point. But yes. Yeah, there's some good things happening there. I have zero influence in that department.
No,
I'm just
we're claiming it.
No.
But anyway, but yeah, you're right. So, and that was the challenge having these Saints supporters because, like some of their kids look all right, but there's a difference between a couple of these kids who, they're the 10th best, 11th best player. Now, just because they're the 10th, we look at we've seen Gould and we've seen other guys picked later, and there's always that unique one that gets picked out of the blue who turns into be a gun. But on the whole, most of the time, the top, one or two players are going to be more talented than the mid-range ones, and that's a massive difference. So yeah, the system probably should change. So I'm not cheering to finish bottom, but yeah, that's definitely the way it goes. All right, I'll fly through a few of these last ones. Not having Ryan VC could be criminal. Yeah, no, I personally agree. But Sarong, even in that game, he'll dominate. But yeah, there's plenty of options this week. We got as a fellow Tigers tragic, Zorko just about to be captain against us. Yeah, and that's again the vice captain from that game. So from Saturday night onwards into Sunday, you want your VCs and captains. Especially handy if you've got Livingston because he's playing on the last game. So a great loophole if you've got Marley or a North Melbourne player again. So you just hope you've got one of those players who's missing this week because it makes it very easy to do your loopholing. For sure. Not sure it's worse Benny not having Ryan or having his back door wide open. That's good. Oh, here we go. How did you go this week, Swiz? So I did give you a shout out earlier, Mr. Wanless, for the fact that you did beat me in our cricket club classic. You were awesome this week. Laird and Dawson and all those other spuds that you had. Did very well. So call credit to you, Lukey. Well done. Thanks for jumping on, mate. We'll see you down cricket soon.
A lot of these look a little bit repetitive, I think, to finish with, and my phone's going to die. This was the longest 5 minutes ever.
No, I love the fact that you did this and jumped on. There's two last little questions I'm just going to answer because I know I do appreciate a couple of. I'm just scrolling back because I was closer to the start, but I will find these while you're just here scrolling. One I think. Because a lot more about Ryan.
There's one about Coburn as well. 36 break even. You have to hold to make that cash.
You got to hold him. He just got a 98. So why would you trade him? Like a lot of these rookie guys, I wouldn't be trying to get rid of. It just kind of doesn't make sense. Oh yeah, here we go. Footy question. I don't know who other coin is, but who should be the 20th AFL team? Just from a bit of a footy chat, I think the Northern Territory Crocs. But yeah, do you have a thought on that, Ben? Because there's a lot of talking about how that works.
Yeah, I don't know if Northern Territory have enough population. I know it's great to be inclusive, and I know there's a lot of talent that comes out of there. However, I'm not sure if they're going to be as economically viable to get people and crowds to the game and to get enough recruitment to the game in that area.
So I'm a little biased on that because I have lived in the Territory. I lived in Indigenous communities and seen, and I know that from what you can say. So, the way they look at footy, like the town we were in, 300 people. The whole town was based around North Melbourne Kangaroos. That was theirs. The town across from us was the Bombers. Town, I say across from us, like 30 k's down a dirt track.
Yeah.
And the whole, so all the uniforms in the school, blue and white, because we were in North Melbourne town. The Laramba were named after the Kangaroos, and we ended up having a footy carnival there while I was living there, and Liam Jara was playing in that carnival. Like the quality of players just running around who will never get an opportunity. So I think there's definitely from that side of things, and not to get too like political, I said it some the other day, I would have liked to see some of that voice money that they spent trying to get that up, then could have just gone to better developing things in the community. And I think that would be great from that side of football. But I do get the sponsor side, the economical side.
I think it's economics.
How are you going to get that? Yeah, and that's where it gets hard. Like, can you give up on having kind of smaller crowds to be more inclusive? Where's the sort of balance there? And I guess people talking about Cairns, the third WA team, the third South Australian team, the Canberra having their own team, which again I think is no different to the South.
I think they.
Territory.
I don't think they do, and I think I'll tell you why. So, as in community spirit, I agree. The building and development of the game, and I think it does mean a lot to local areas in Northern Territory, would mean huge amounts. And developing young talent in areas that they highly look up to, I also agree. However, when you look at the economics of it, I think COVID has probably scared the crap out of a lot of people as far as, the sustainability of the game. And I don't think they're going to put the team somewhere that it's not actually going to thrive and make money with a decent amount of crowds, which sounds really insincere and not personal, but it's kind of, I think that's just the way it's going to lean. So for me, I think when you look at crowds and you look at, people that are really crazy about football, I think you are looking probably at like a Perth sort of team. There's two there. There's probably room for another. Or because they're pretty much gun-ho. There's not much else out there except for football and, Adelaide's got the two. They've got the two there. So, I mean, Canberra, sure. I don't think they really build a crowd either. Sydney.
The one a lot of people talk about is just canning a team. And I get a bit critical about this because I actually think, and I get the North supporters because obviously they're the struggles that they're having, that they're the easy one to whack and to keep it at 18. But at least they're not in debt. Like St Kilda are obviously in a lot of debt, have a lot more members, but financially in a lot sort of problems. I don't like the idea of kicking teams. I like more expansion, but I do get why some people do, kind of vote that way.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
And the last question, which came from the other half, was the who makes the finals? And I think it's because Bombers supporters are up and about. There'll be a few Bombers supporters in the chat going that. So if you kind of take out who do you think potentially comes in, and who you potentially drops out, because they're top 8 right now, and that might be for you guys out there as well. Sydney, Geelong, Essendon, and Melbourne. You got the Giants, Port, Carlton, and Collingwood all in the 8 at the moment, and then just outside who can probably are. I'm rolling a line out of St Kilda, Hawthorn, West Coast, Richmond, North. So you've got left Freo, Gold Coast, Doggies, Adelaide, or Brisbane. Could one of them come in, and then who would drop out?
Oh, that sucks. Read the top 8 again.
So the top 8 is Sydney. They're not missing. Too far ahead. Geelong, I can't see them missing. So then you're going down to Essendon, Melbourne, Giants, Port, Carlton, and Collingwood.
Right. So the only team that could probably make it would be Brisbane. And if they make the 8, they're not going to do any damage, in my opinion.
Do a 2 games behind, but could get on a run.
Yeah, they could get on a run. They could get enough wins to scrape the 8. But if they make it, I don't think they're going to make a dent in finals just based on the injuries. I don't think they have it. However, that being said, I can't see the top 8 changing based on the caliber and the quality of football that has been played so far.
Yeah, like Carlton, big win against. The thing is, Carlton gets a big win against another rival in Melbourne, who are still above them. Port Adelaide, massive win there against Geelong away. Yep. So that they're going to obviously now get a home game, which they're going to beat up on this week. And I've been playing around with that AFL ladder predictor,
and it's not a question about
the Lions getting on a bit of a run, which I could see them doing. I think like Freo has a period there. Like Freo St Kilda is huge. Like if Freo to lose to St Kilda, I don't think that like the Saints they'll still be 2-3 games out of it anyway. But Freo just drops away. Where Freo win this week, there's still that sneaky chance if they keep winning games. But they're going to have to do a lot of work to keep, because like Collingwood are going to continue to get on a roll at some point here.
But yeah, the biggest issue is not who can make it; it's who misses. Because there's quite a few teams you're like, oh yeah, they could make the 8, they could move in. But then when you look at who is actually in that top 8 and how they're playing, you can't get rid of any of them. And I would like to say that Brisbane would make it in, but when you look at the top 8 teams, you're saying I can't see any of them missing. So.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes it.
I got to go, Swiz. My battery's hitting low
2 last
bars.
seconds. Carter, because I know he wanted it. If Graham is selected, should I trade 5 or Graham? You trade 5 if Graham's selected. If Graham's not, that's an easy one, mate. I know you've got a few here, so I do appreciate it.
Rankin
or Steele this week. I think we're both on the forward, and Rankin just because the Adelaide draw. Yeah.
Yes. Zorko, you can get pre-buy because he's going to get expensive. That's the problem with Zorko. If you don't get him now,
he could be much money.
He could be 600K. So I think you kind of need him.
Yeah.
Now, or hope for a dull game if that one's there. Biggie, can Biggie get a game? Biggie, can't you see? No. Okay.
No.
And you already answered that one. So all good. Easy, mate. That was the longest. That was actually really enjoyable. I just sat on the couch, not even in the studio.
That's what I do each week, mate. We come here with our fans that we appreciate so much. So many people hit up on the DMs or tag us on Twitter. We really do appreciate that. And just sit here and talk to our great supporters out there that I appreciate each week. So this is what I do while you've been missing in action.
The Breville. I was calling him the Breville maker.
That's great. Good, LD. Yeah. All right. On that note, I'll finish up with Benny. Thank you so much for coming and joining us at Supercoach Insider this week, Ben.
Yes, the guest appearance that never left
from the host.
But look, let me know.
It feels different, mate. Me hosting and you answering the questions.
Yeah, I know, right? I think it's been about a month since I've recorded, so I think it's been about 4 weeks or so. So, yes, I am aware I've been off, but I am keen to get back in. And
I was messaging Chris as well. He's going to be so annoyed when he sees the fact that.
Well, because I saw your thing at 8 o'clock. I saw your thing at 8, and I thought, look, I'll just plug in my mic, plug it into my phone. That's all. Like, that's good news. Actually, we can record just from the phone, which is awesome. Because I just plugged the Rode mic into my phone, and I'm just using my phone.
That as well. So, like, I've been thinking about doing it, but obviously,
that's what I'm literally just sitting on my couch. Just sitting on my couch with my phone and doing this. So
probably comes up better than what I did like a couple of weeks ago. You would have seen me in the old work closet while I was on break just to try to answer our fans' questions. So, no, it's awesome. We do have plans to try to get out and about a little bit more. And we saw Ben obviously after the grand final, but
only because I missed out on daylight savings. That was good value though. Getting out. Good fun.
We do have, because of your support, we've managed to invest more technology into what we do. So we do have big plans that just, Ben's been very busy with life, and which happens. But
if anyone did miss it, Joe gave my wife a lovely, so my wife gave Joe a lovely drive-by because it's like, I think you were go-karting or something, Swiz, and Joe was like, Katrina said something, and then Joe's like, you should, can't wait to have Benny back down in Melbourne sometime soon or whatever. And then Katrina's like, well, the rate Brisbane's playing, he won't be down for a while.
That's fantastic.
2
hours of chat, guys. Hopefully this is this has satisfied your Supercoach itch, and we will
satisfied the lack of Ben content for the last month.
Great, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.